Hey everyone, I'm Charting Man Dan, trader and technical analyst with the Chart Guys. In this video, we're going to look at the markets and see that the bulls were buying hand over fist today in response to the FOMC yesterday. We got a bit of a mini short squeeze on our hands, and this is shifting probabilities of longer term time frames. Let's see what the charts are telling us. So we can see the S&P 500 futures chart here, V-shaped bounce, and the reason I call it a bit of a short squeeze is just the speed at which this move has taken place off the lows. We can see the 4-hour RSI is definitely overbought. That means less to me because this is a news event, the FOMC reaction, and so that RSI is less meaningful. But this is the highest the RSI has been since we topped out at the over the summer highs. And so that is showing us a lot of power behind this move. We know the retracement size has tons of space for a daily trend change attempt, and you're going to hear me talking about that all next week. Can the bulls confirm a daily uptrend once we top out? It's going to attempt to be, let's just condense this down, 2-day time frame. The bulls are going to attempt an inverse head and shoulders on the 2-day time frame. If they confirm a daily uptrend, for me, the probabilities that a monthly high or low is being set will increase significantly. And so the bulls are giving themselves a lot of space to work with. And essentially, it was our leaders that started the bounce. And over the past couple of days, we were saying, hey, none of our other names are participating. And then today, the breadth increased significantly. The 84% of the NYSE was green, and it was IWM and ARKK that were playing catch up in a big way. So we're definitely due for hourly consolidation. Today was just a slow grind up, and yes, it was a gap up open and then a slow grind up, but it was just putting pressure on bears all day and not giving any relief. And we do have a bearish Apple earnings reaction after hours. And so that's leading to some potential hourly consolidation. But again, tons of space to pull back and form an hourly high or low. Definitely cautious long up at these levels, but also the kind of day where, you make a short attempt, you put a break-even stop if you can, but you don't fight the bull momentum all day today. That's the kind of thing when you bang your head against the wall, and we don't want to do that. NASDAQ, same deal, big bounce. Let's go to QQQ. So again, short-term RSI levels. Actually, let's go back to the NASDAQ. Look at RSI. Overbought, but again, not necessarily a reason to short. We stayed overbought all day. It's a reason to not go long. It's not a reason to short. And so the NASDAQ bulls, tons of space. Again, the retracement size at this point is now well over 50%. Tons of space for the higher low. This is one of the more powerful 4-day moves that the market has seen since our October fear low. And XLF, this is the most significant 4-day bounce since that point in time. So this is notable to me. This is a more impressive bounce than the last time around. And the nice thing is, we have things to compare it to recently, the recent bounces. And you can see the other bounces confirm the daily uptrend, confirm the daily uptrend, and this is just V-shape. Worry about the daily uptrend later. And so again, I know I keep saying it, but I am very open to this being a monthly bull flag. There is nothing on this chart that tells me this is not a monthly bull flag on the NASDAQ at this point in time. The burden is on bears to prove to me. Essentially, this low, this October low, is now a must hold for me. And the reason being, again, the seasonality stat of in the last 52 years, 88% of the time, we close the year higher than the low of October. So they flush it down as much as they can to end October. And now, let's see if we get bulls turning things around. If we drop down and break the lows from here, you'll hear me shut up about bull flags on monthly time frames. But simple statement, if 342 is the low of the rest of the year for the NASDAQ, a monthly bull flag is absolutely on the table. SMH, some bounce follow through. Again, it was a laggard on this bounce, but it's playing a bit of catch up. And we've got the space to try and shape up the daily trend change. Again, this is every bear break is going straight into a bounce. That is a bullish indication. If this were going to be weakening, we would be dropping and following through when trends change. Lower high, lower low, straight into a 3-week bounce. Lower low, straight into at least a 50% retracement bounce. We'll see how long it lasts. So we'll keep an eye on that channel there, but again, it's all about when do we top, watching our hourly uptrends over the next couple of days, And then once we top, how much retracement do we see before we find a daily higher low? Tesla, also one of the laggard bouncers. We're watching 222 resistance. If we fail, the bulls will attempt to shape up a daily inverse head and shoulders, perhaps targeting the backfill here of the gap at 206 for a daily higher low. But again, another name where the bears had a lot of confidence in Tesla, as they should, because they had relative weakness on Monday and again yesterday morning. But then the gap and go today puts pressure on short-term bears. Healthcare was one of the weakest, it was the weakest bounce in our major sectors, but it's now creating the space for a daily trend change attempt. XLF, simple statement for me, this must be the monthly higher low on XLF if we're going to continue tightening up this equilibrium. And that is definitely on the table as a possibility. Again, confirm the daily uptrend, and the probability of a monthly higher low ticks up a good bit. 33.94 key resistance. And again, you just look at the 4-day move here from that low on Friday after the big bear day. That was an extremely convincing bear day on Friday, into a 6% bounce in 4 days. Again, you go back and find, when have we bounced 6% in 4 days? And you've got to go 2, 3, 4. We've got 7.8 in 4 days on the fear low. So again, there's power behind that, the speed and the magnitude. And we'll see if that's enough power to shape up the inverse head and shoulders on the longer term time frame for that monthly higher low. Interesting, I'm just making some observations here after hours. And so we're watching the Apple earnings reaction, and it's not a big bearish reaction. We're currently down a few percent. 172s right now has us essentially filling this gap, and we're well above 165 at the moment. But as soon as I saw Apple start to roll over here during its conference call, a big bid popped up on XLF. And very often QQQ and XLF trade inverse to each other. And so I'm seeing them push up XLF to counterbalance the QQQ drop after hours because of Apple earnings. And I'm looking around at all the major banks. BAC is under the high of the day. JPM under the high of the day. Wells Fargo, nothing. Morgan Stanley, nothing. They're literally just doing the ETF. Unless I'm missing something, it's not the regional banks. Why is XLF right now with big bids for after hours up clearly over the high of the day when none of the underlying are? Let me know if I'm missing something, but it appears to me like they are still playing the inverse game to offset the NASDAQ weakness with propping up XLF after hours, which bulls love to see. IWM, so again, it was an extremely weak bounce as of yesterday. It's a much more convincing bounce today, increasing volume, even more volume. You gap up and then have more volume following through on the gap up, even more than the FOMC day. That's pretty convincing volume. Weekly perspective, still in a clear downtrend. This name has the most proving to do out of everything. And we have to confirm a daily uptrend when we top out. ARKK, again, after yesterday, nothing. Today, big change, huge change, almost double the volume. Nah, not quite. But, plus 60% the volume of the FOMC day on a gap up, a big gap up. So that's insane. You gap up. What am I missing? We didn't gap up 4%, did we? I guess so. I mean, Tesla's the largest holdings. Anyways, we gap up 4% and then have the highest daily volume. That is massive. Sorry, I'm just seeing this now, as you can see. We have the highest daily volume. And again, volume is your prove-it indicator. In terms of shares, this is your highest daily volume in 7 months. And it's coming on a 4% gap up, buying. And it's a green Maribozu candle. That is extremely impressive and convincing. Still got to change the daily trend. But it stood out to me today with AI. Huge day for AI. And the lesson here, I've been in this swing trade. I forget when it triggered, sometime around here. I have wanted to cut this swing trade probably 5 times in the last 2 weeks. Yesterday, really badly wanted to cut it. And we came down and tested this level again, and then we're up today 12% or whatever, and we're testing now the highest level in 5 weeks. And the lesson there is just let the trade game play out, which is what I did, the trade game plan. Set my stop at 72.99. I'm either going to stop out or it's going to play out. Because if I act in my emotions in the moment yesterday, I would definitely sell yesterday. We're not participating in the bounce at all. There's relative weakness multiple days in a row. PLTR earnings definitely had some kind of impact as it is testing the highest levels in months. But now this is the AI bulls trying to turn this weekly, again, supply outweighing demand for months, balancing out, and now demand is trying to flip over supply and trying to set a monthly higher low. That ARKK volume is something. What's IWM volume? Hi. Crypto stocks, Riot, following through in a big way, gap and go, and a lot of relative strength compared to Bitcoin today. And so it's playing laggard catch up. We're testing 1137, which is the highest level that we've seen in over a month. And Bitcoin didn't even do a whole lot today. So let's just see how today went. You know, let's see, all right, we hit the low of the day at 945, and Bitcoin, this is 945. Bitcoin saw a clear flush down, 1% lower, and then essentially closed where we opened, whereas Riot closed a good bit higher than where we opened, almost 10%, 7% higher than where we opened. Anyways, relative strength there. Again, it's just all our growth and laggard names. I talked yesterday about how all these crypto names are showing risk on the last 2 weeks. And today, in response to the FOMC yesterday, the risk on names played laggard catch up. ARKK, IWM, crypto stocks, AI, etc. Keep watching. I'm still watching this inverse correlation, XLF and QQQ, because I'm a bit fascinated by the fact that they're still doing it after hours. I don't usually see that. I don't usually look for it. The dollar. So I drew this potential 12-hour megaphone a couple days ago because we had a support break, no follow-throughs, resistance break, no follow-through. And so I'm going to continue keeping an eye on this. But solid drop, rejecting from weekly resistance. But if the bears are going to be for real, we got to break 105.36 to essentially negate the possible weekly bear flag and have our first step towards a 3-month lower high attempt. So still work to do, but bears are certainly pleased with the follow-through that they saw today. And so with that, gold, daily higher low trying to form off EMA 12. It is a possible head and shoulders we're going to have to keep an eye on. Silver still tightening up on the daily, but did drop into the end of the day. So the bulls still not proving it in the metals just yet in the short term. Still weekly consolidation potentially on the table for them. 10-year rolled over a bit more significantly. I've got my first TLT long attempt from yesterday that I have had all year. Why? People have been asking me about TLT for months. I've been covering it in the weekend video for Chart Guys members every weekend this year. And this is my first time going long because this is the first confirmed daily uptrend in over 2.5 months. So I look for something, show me something is different for the first time in a long time, and then I'll make my attempt. And so that happened yesterday with this little, just barely breaking resistance, but we did break it. And so now my game plan will be to sell partial into weekly EMA 12, set a risk-free stop loss under 82. That's either a long-term bottom or I stop out and don't lose a thing. And that's going to be my game plan on TLT. First time I've ever traded that in my life. What else we got? Oil bulls holding support just barely. Got right down, held it by 2 pennies into the solid bounce. And so can the bulls shape up an inverse head and shoulders on the 4-hour to follow through and keep tightening up a daily or a weekly tightening range? Key level for me is going to be 83.42. If we don't get over that, bulls don't prove much. If we do get over that, bulls prove something. And we double bottom off that support a bit more convincingly. Energy sector had a good day with the rest of the market. So I'm scouting a short, but I'm being real patient. And I'm just viewing this as an equilibrium. Technically, we did break support by 15 cents, but I'm calling this, I'm looking for this lower high up here very patiently because, again, the bulls are obviously standing out in the market. And natural gas continuing to tighten up the daily equilibrium, trying for a higher low, anything above 332.1. And bulls are hoping that that's 340 being set right now, but we do need more follow through if we're going to have conviction that that is the case. So I'm going to keep an eye on that ARKK volume. But a big win for the bulls today. There's a number of things that I don't have no content end of the video, so we're going to talk market stuff. There's a number of things you want to be aware of on social media. When you're watching people talk about trades, they need a stop loss or an invalidation point. If they don't have that, then it's just, you have to have that. If you don't have that, you're not a long-term, full-time trader, in my opinion, because then you get yourself into big holes and have big losses when trades get away from you and you try and average down or whatever. So if someone is not giving their invalidation point, ask them for it, because otherwise it's an incomplete picture. There's a lack of transparency. You have to have that aspect of the equation, and every single one of you should have that for yourself on every single trade that you enter. You need to know exactly when you're wrong so you know to cut it and move on and look for something else. Otherwise, that's how you create bag holders. Another thing is make sure, and everybody has bias, right? You have what you think is the most likely scenario, and even when you're trying to not be biased, there's still bias present. And I've been leaning to these monthly bull flags on some of these names over the past month or so, just saying, we can't forget about this. It's still a possibility. And you just have to be sure that, if what I try to do is if I'm pointing out something for the bulls, I want to be pointing out the exact same thing for the bears. And so what you'll see is, I saw this on social media today, and it was funny. One individual where they've been talking like everybody else. There's no breadth in the market. There's 7 names holding things up. Atrocious breadth on this bounce attempt. And then today, when you have a massive increase in breadth, they don't say a word about it. And they say, well, Microsoft is a bit weaker. And they literally are using the exact opposite reasoning that they have been talking about for days to justify why this bounce is still not believable. Well, Microsoft isn't really participating, so this bounce, it's no big deal. Whereas you've been talking about breadth not being there, and now this is the most convincing breadth day in weeks, and you don't say a word about it. So we have to do our best, because again, inherently, just like we're always going to have ego, no matter how much we try and be on top of it and be aware of it, we're always going to have a bit of bias, but we always want to try and check ourselves. One more note on crypto stocks. Coin has earnings reaction as well. It's bearish. So tightening daily range on coin. And we'll see if we get an equilibrium into mid-November. All right, I'm going to do a live stream again tomorrow morning, pre-market, covering for Lori at 8:30 a.m. Eastern on this YouTube channel. And other than that, do some good things.